All right, welcome. This is an urgent briefing for the OECD. We're about to take a look at two of the world's most successful economies, Japan and Singapore. Now, on the surface, they are absolute beacons of prosperity. But if you dig a little deeper, if you look inside the living rooms of their citizens, you find a deep, quiet, and growing financial anxiety. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on that hidden crisis. So let's just start with a question that gets right to the heart of it. Think about this for a second. Can you be a millionaire and at the same time be completely broke? It sounds crazy, right? Well, the answer isn't just yes. It's the daily reality for millions of people in these advanced economies. And that's the paradox we're here to unpack. So let me introduce you to our two main characters in this tale of two wallets. On the left, you've got the Singaporean HDB millionaire. They're asset-rich, owning $1 million apartment, but they're cash-poor, literally struggling to find money for everyday life. And on the right, the Japanese cash-hoarder. They're cash-rich, sitting on a huge pile of yen, but so terrified of the future they can't bring themselves to spend it. Two economic success stories, two populations filled with anxiety. We're calling this first part a tale of two wallets. And it really is about that contrast between the view from 35,000 feet and the view from the living room. From way up high, looking down at Tokyo's neon glow or Singapore's incredible skyline, you see nothing but success. But when you get down to ground level, a quiet crisis is unfolding. Not a crisis of how much wealth people have, but of where that wealth is and what they can actually do with it. So how is this even possible? Well, it all boils down to a fundamental clash between two ideas: solvency versus liquidity. You see, we love to talk about net worth. It's that one big number we use to measure financial success. But what we're learning is that net worth can be a liar. It hides the thing that actually matters for day-to-day survival, and that's where the real story is. Let's just be crystal clear on what we mean by liquidity. It's simple, really. It's how fast you can turn something you own into actual cash in your hand. Cash to pay an unexpected medical bill, fix your car, or just, buy groceries. Think about it. Owning $1 million painting is great, but you can't use it at the supermarket. Having cash is what lets you actually live your life. And this chart, wow, it just lays the whole problem out visually. Look at Singapore on one side. It's a fortress of wealth, but it's all built from property and pensions, assets that are locked up so tight you can barely touch them. Then you look at Japan. It's the complete opposite, a massive mountain of cash and deposits, totally liquid, but it's just sitting there, earning absolutely nothing. Two extremes, both leading to the exact same place: anxiety. And this brings us to what we're calling the dead money dilemma. In Singapore, all that wealth is like gold bars locked away in a vault. It's incredibly valuable for sure, but it's completely static. You can't use it. In Japan, the wealth is like a huge river of cash that has just stopped flowing. In both countries, trillions of dollars are effectively frozen, not stimulating the economy and not giving people the freedom they thought they had earned. Okay, so how on earth did we get here? These strange financial habits didn't just appear out of nowhere. They're the direct result of each country's unique history and decades of policy choices. To really understand why people save the way they do today, you have to go back and understand the traumas of the past. It all goes back to two key moments in history. For Singapore, that moment was 1965. Suddenly independent, with no natural resources, the country adopted a survivalist mindset that led to one of the world's most aggressive forced saving systems. For Japan, the trauma was 1989. The country's massive asset bubble didn't just pop, it exploded. That ushered in decades of deflation and near-zero interest rates, teaching an entire generation that the only thing you could trust was cash under the mattress. I mean, just look at the scale of Singapore's system. 37%. For a typical worker, more than a third of their salary is taken out and put into the central Provident fund before they ever even see it. Think about that. For every $100 you earn, 37 are immediately locked away for your house and your retirement. It's brilliant for building assets, but it absolutely crushes your daily cash flow. And then you jump over to Japan and see a problem that's just as big, but in the opposite direction. Japanese households are sitting on over 1,100 trillion yen in cash and deposits. That's about $7 trillion US dollars. It's a sum larger than the entire German economy, and it's just sitting there, getting eaten away by inflation day after day. And the financial systems in each country are built to reinforce these behaviors. Singapore's CPF system is basically an engine designed to take your money and lock it into different accounts for specific purposes. You can't just access it. Meanwhile, Japan's banking system, especially the giant Japan Post Bank, essentially acts as a giant national vault, a place that's perceived as the only safe harbor for your money, which just encourages more and more cash hoarding. Now, both governments see these problems, and they're starting to make some really big moves. But here's the fascinating part. They are moving in completely opposite directions. Each country is trying to solve its own unique national problem, and it's setting them on two totally different paths into the future. Let's take a look. To get why they're making these moves, let's check back in with our two retirees. The Singaporean millionaire is looking at their apartment, and they're terrified of something called lease decay. Their $1 million asset is on a 99-year clock, and its value is literally ticking down to zero every single day. The Japanese retiree, they're paralyzed by longevity risk. Their pile of cash is all they have, it's not growing, and every single thing they buy makes it smaller. They're terrified of outliving their money. So, what's Singapore doing? They're doubling down. The big policy shift in 2025 is all about locking things down even tighter. They're closing loopholes and raising the amount you're forced to set aside for retirement to over $400,000. The government's goal is clear. They call it income secured. They don't want you managing your own wealth. They want to guarantee you a paycheck for life from the state, even if it means sacrificing your personal financial freedom. And at the exact same time, Japan is slamming the accelerator in the opposite direction. Their big 2024 NISA reform is a massive push to get all that frozen cash out of savings accounts and into the market. They're offering huge tax breaks and higher limits, basically begging people, please take your money out from under the mattress and put it to work. Their goal is all about spending mobilization. They need that cash to start moving to get the economy going again. So if you want to know the real-world cost of Singapore's low liquidity model, here it is. This is the punchline. Despite having some of the wealthiest households on the planet, Singapore has the #1 highest rate of elderly employment in the entire developed world. People aren't working just to stay active. They're working because their $1 million homes can't pay the bills. That is the price of choosing total solvency over individual liquidity. So, what's the big takeaway here? Well, for everyone at the OECD, the stories of Japan and Singapore are more than just interesting case studies. They are a preview of the future. They are a flashing red warning light for the rest of the developed world about the very real, unintended consequences of even the best-intentioned retirement policies. And this leads us to the big, scary question looking forward. You have these two economic giants on completely different tracks, speeding away from each other. Singapore is locking wealth down, and Japan is trying to push it out. If this keeps up for another decade, what breaks first? A generation of Singaporeans who have no control over their own money, or a generation of Japanese who are pushed to take risks and lose everything? And this, right here, is the core lesson from this entire briefing. The challenge for every single developed nation is finding this incredibly delicate balance. It's a tightrope walk between guaranteeing the solvency of the entire nation, making sure the system stays afloat, and preserving the autonomy of the individual, letting people have freedom and control over their own lives. If you get that balance wrong, you end up with exactly what we're seeing in Asia, an entire generation of citizens who are wealthy, but also deeply anxious. Because at the end of the day, this whole tale of two wallets really forces us to ask a much bigger question. What is wealth actually for? Is it just a number on a national balance sheet, a high score to brag about? Or is it about having the ability to make choices in your own life? The lesson from Singapore and Japan seems pretty clear. Wealth isn't just a number. Real wealth is freedom.